Hello, my name is Dustin Cruz, and today we're going to be talking about some things that are new in X17, namely the material builders and the interactive material editor. So before we get started, I wanted to shout out a quick thank you to Sean, Alex, and Chris Tembrink for making these tools and working with me, and I'm very, very appreciative, and I'm very excited to use them. So with that out of the way, let's take a look. So the builder breakdown. What are they? So the builders are, under the hood, they're a file format called a .sbsar, and that sounds like a mouthful, so we just call them builders. Adobe makes them with a tool that we call Substance. I use Substance on my end to make the materials for you guys to download in our catalogs. So one of the benefits we get from using these builders is that I can combine all the tile that I've made, all the wood flooring that I've made, all the species that I've made for you guys to download as individual materials in Chief, and I can combine them into what I call builders. These let you make your own materials based on the specs that you want. So we can change the grout, we can change the color, we can change whatever we want on our materials. So if you ever see one of these files, as I make them on my end, it's all node based. It's a large map that has little connecting squares. It makes some cool little things like this. And when you combine all the different things together in one giant builder, it kind of looks kind of crazy, but this is what the tile builder looks like under the hood. But because they're node-based, they're generating the image on the fly. There's no source image. There's no source photo. That means we can be dynamic. We can change things as we want them. Whatever options I implement, you guys then get to go and combine them and tweak them and adjust them to your liking and make custom materials that then go directly into Chief. So what are the benefits? Well, map support for one. When you get an image offline, you're going to make a tile, it's just the actual photo. It doesn't have any map support with it. These all come fully supported. I make the maps, again, under the hood, and so they should just slot into the material as you make them. But normal maps, metal maps, roughness maps, all the maps that you possibly could want will slot into the correct slot in Chief, so you won't have to actually worry about them. They'll just kind of work. Also, we get resolution control. So if you need, for whatever reason, a higher res image, or you can get by with a lower res image, you can control that. And we'll get into some details with that later as to why that's important. But with regular static images, you can't just change the resolution without some drastic effects. We don't need real access or a photographer to go and take images of the material that we want to make. We don't have to have somebody go and take a picture of a wood floor, large countertops. We don't have to have somebody take a picture of a large concrete slab. First of all, it's expensive. We don't want to fly all over the place taking pictures of exotic materials. Sounds kind of fun, but that's probably not going to happen. The other thing is that it's impractical. If I want to take a large picture of a concrete slab, I have to get above it. And so that probably entails renting a drone or a big ladder. It depends on the lighting. I need to get time of day. And so now we could just make it digitally, and it's pretty dang close. So the better I get at my job when I make these, the better your scenes will look using them. There's no fine art skills required. This is all node-based, so you're not actually holding a pen or a pencil. You're not drawing in the lines of wood grain. You just have to know how it behaves and try and emulate it on the computer. It helps to have some background in painting or sketching, but a lot of material artists aren't really skilled, myself included, with 2D drawing, which is a perk, but it does help. And also the very small file sizes. They're easy to download. They're easy for us to update. You're not downloading a giant 4,000 pixel by 4,000 pixel image that's going to be 25 megs. You're downloading kilobits. They're really, really small because it's just these nodes. They're not the actual image. And so we're going to use these nodes to generate the image. But before that, they're really, really tiny. So how do we use them? Prior to X17, we maintained a thread on the symbols and content section of the Chief Talk. If you've seen it before, you know that you go and download the Substance player from Adobe, which is just an external software outside of Chief that would let you open up the builders that I provided on that same Chief Talk thread. So you would have to download the player, install the player, download the builders from the thread, so you get the tile builder or the wood builder or something, and then you'd open it up with the player, and then you could adjust your material there till you like it, export it out, map by map, and then you'd have to import it into Chief, map by map, take a look at it, place it in a plan, and call it good. But now we can skip all that because we have the tool directly built into Chief. If I pull up Chief, we have 3D, and we take our mouse down to the Material Builder section and click on that. That brings up our prompt, and we have the same builders we had before, but now they're built into Chief. If I adjust my tile, if I adjust my materials how I want them, I can click the Add to Library button right here, and it'll go straight to my user library, and I can apply it straight from there. And we'll come back to this and take a deep dive in just a moment after I finish my spiel. But, real quick, what do we gain by doing it this way? Well, first of all, there's no more map management. As you just saw, we added the material to the library, which automatically made the material for us, swapped it over. We'll have controls built in for scale, to name your material, all that stuff will be built in on that side, so you won't have to do it twice. We didn't have to save them off in a folder and then re-find them in Chief and load them back in. It's all done under the hood in Chief, so that's a big gain. We have WYSIWYG right in your scene, so you can place that material in your scene with the material builder still open. So I have it over here. And if I move this out of the way, you can see I can place this in my scene, take a look at it and say, you know what, that's too small, that's too big, let's change it a little bit. I can go back, add another one to the library, and work with my materials in real time, which is a very nice benefit. Instead of trying to adjust it in the player, exporting out my maps, placing them in Chief, putting it in a plan, finding that I made a mistake or don't like it, going back to the player, exporting them again, yada, yada, yada. So that's a nice gain. And it's easy access. It's right there. If I want to make fine-tune adjustments, if I come back tomorrow and I just don't like it for whatever reason, it's too shiny, it's too dark, the grout's too thin, I can open up the material builder, make another one, and see which one I like better. So the old method of using the screen capture tool is still available. If you need to have the accuracy of that tool, you have to have that exact tile. I recommend you use that tool. The builders for materials are more powerful, but they're more generic. And so you will have to make your own, and maybe it won't be 100% correct. Maybe the aspect ratio on your tile might be a little bit wrong, or the veining on the marble might not be exactly right. But if you use the screen capture tool, it'll be spot on. It just won't look as photoreal, which, sometimes that's okay. It's still really easy to use. You just open it up, find a picture you like, screen grab it, and it makes your material for you, and you're good to go. For cons, you have to find the image yourself, you have to make the material yourself, and you're limited to what's available out there. I mean, if you don't have a picture for what you want to make, you just can't make it. And so with the Substance Builder, we're not working off a source image, so we can make up whatever we want. You have seams usually, unless the image is seamless, which most of the time it is not. You're taking a picture and you'll have some gnarly seams you'll have to take care of or just live with. There's not a lot you can do about that with this tool, but sometimes it's okay. You have a lack of map support. So like I said before, you only have the image. So there's no normal map. There's no roughness map. So it's going to look kind of flat and a little bit not photoreal. It might work for things like wood or concrete, but with something like tile, it's going to be pretty obvious there's no maps on it. And it's static. If you want to change something, you can probably blend some colors in Chief, but that's about it. Unless you take it out to an external photo editor like Photoshop or something, you kind of get what you get. Builder cons, you have to make it yourself. I mentioned that before, but you have to pick a material, go through and adjust the drop downs and the sliders to make the things that you want. You have to eyedrop the colors. You do have more control, but it's a little bit more work than just snapping a picture and calling it good. The other one is you're limited to what's available. If I make it, then everybody has it, and you can combine it with anything else in the builder. You can combine different material types and layouts and colors and textures and treatments. But if I didn't make it, there's not really a way for you to add it in there. Later on, I'll show you how to download some other builders. They're called SBSARs, like I mentioned before, but we just call them builders in Chief. So I'll show you how that works here towards the end of the video. Builder Pros, they're high quality. They are photoreal. They are seamless. So right out the gate, you won't have any seams. They are fully mapped. So if you pick something to be metallic, then that map will automatically be built for you and slot in the metal slot for you, so you won't have to worry about it. And they're dynamic. They change as you work. So if you change the color, change the scale, change the type, change whatever you want, there's no image that needs to be edited. It's changing on the fly, and that gives us resolution control as well. So we can change the resolution, we can randomize, we can change stuff as we see fit. So when do I use which? If you need accuracy, using the capture tool option will be accurate but low quality. Builders will be much more realistic and customizable, but not as accurate. So if you need that exact product, because you're showing a client, this is the tile you're going to use, this is the wood species you're going to use, maybe use an image. If you want to show how photoreal this kitchen is going to be, how good this bathroom is going to look, maybe use the builders. But there's no wrong answer. Having said that, if you can make it, you should. If I'm going to make black subway tile with white grout, it's very easy for me to make the exact thing I want in Substance, which gives me the accuracy that I wanted and the photorealism I get from using the builder. There's not really a reason not to, except for the small time investment, but the more you use these tools, the faster it'll be. And you can make high quality materials in seconds. And I'll show you how here in a sec. So how do I use it? So before I mention, you're going to go to 3D, go to the material builder. That'll pop up the window that we're going to use to make these materials. You're going to select your builder, so wood, tile, whatever. But there's also external options, and I'll swap over to Chief and show you what those are. We're going to go to 3D. We're going to open the material builder, and we have our builders right here. And at the bottom, you see there's a load external SBSAR, and that's how we get external files that other artists have used. They're using the same software that I use to make the builders, but these are outside of Chief. These will load in. You might get some pro grade ones, you might get some fun ones, you might get some weird ones. There's no real promises since you're outside the Chief ecosystem, but there's a lot of really talented artists out there. There's a lot of cool SBSARs out there too. So shop around, share them. They're really small. They download really easy. Check them out. Now that we know how to get to the builder, let's make some cool stuff. Okay, I mentioned the subway tile before to see how fast we can make it. Let's make one here real quick. I'm going to pick the tile builder from my list, and we default to the subway tile. We have different layout options over here that we can drop down to different aspect ratios. If I want square, it'd be 1:1. If I want, let's say it's going to be 4:8 or 5:10, it's going to be a 2:1 aspect ratio. We have different layout options down here, but we're going to stick with subway for now. And we're going to make a white subway tile with black grout. Real simple. Here we go. I'm going to change my scale down here at the bottom so I can see in my preview window how it looks. And later I'll show you how to get an accurate scale. But for now, let's just call it 80. Okay. And we have grout control right here. So I'm going to drop down the grout control submenu here. And there's a few controls that let me change the color of the grout and the thickness of the grout. If I'm happy with that, I can go to the bottom. I can name it. Let's just call it white subway tile. And we'll add it to the library. So you see it pop up on the right-hand side of my library. I can then go and place it in the scene. But I don't want to close the material builder window yet, because once I close it, I'll lose this setup. So I'm going to move it over to the left. It's on my other screen. You can't see it right now, but it's still there and it's still active. I'm going to place this tile in my scene. Take a look at it. All right, so my grout's a little bit chunky. It's a little bit too thick for my liking. I want to adjust that. Now, I can't adjust the material that I just placed in Chief, but I can replace it. So I'm going to go back to my material builder, which still has my subway tile here in place. I'm going to adjust the grout a little bit smaller, like so. And let's try one more. And we're going to keep the name, but add smaller grout. And we'll add to the library. And we're going to place that in the plan and see how it looks. There we go, much better. That's what I wanted. All right, so I'm happy with that. Let's do a couple more just to get away from subway tile, something a little bit more complex. Let's drop this down to uneven strip. And let's drop this down to 3-color random. And what that's doing is going to activate all 3 tile types, these drop downs here towards the bottom. And these are all the controls I have for the different types of tile I'm going to use. And I have control over the material type, the color, the roughness. And with the random layout, we can adjust these as we need. Let's take the first one and change the color a little bit. Okay. And this one over here, let's also change the color. The third one, let's drop it down and make it metallic. So we have 2 porcelain and 1 metallic for our 3 tile options. And let's make that a gray so it looks like steel. Okay. I can adjust the roughness as well on this metallic to kind of get a brushed effect. And good. Let's change the name of this to metal strip. And let's add it to the library. And let's go place it in a scene. Okay. Now that we've done a couple tile, let's go to the floor. Let's do a wood floor. So for that, we're going to change the builder to the wood builder. And we have options here for the different kinds of cuts. So I'm going to drop this down to an 8-inch engineered cut. Okay. I'm going to pick my species. I'm going to adjust my stain. I'm going to fix my scale. Let's just do 80 inches one more time. Hit OK. And we're good to go. Let's place it in a plan. All right, so I'm going to close the material builder, and you're going to see a warning pop up saying, hey, you're going to lose all your work if you close this. So if you're currently working on materials, I recommend leaving this open just off in a different window. But when you're ready to close it, if you close it, you cannot go back to the setting without remaking it. So we made some basic materials, but I want to show a few advanced tips to see some of the cool things you can make with this. One of the first ones is the image input. On the material type for tile, for wood, for everything, there's an image input that you can drop down to. There's actually two of them. You can pick one. This one here will let you adjust the color of the image that you load. And this one here will maintain the color of the image and disable the color controls in the builder. So if you want to keep the color of the image, you pick this one. If you want to adjust the color or the lightness or whatever, you pick this one. So once I select the image input, we're going to have to actually select an image. And unfortunately, Adobe places this at the bottom of the prompt. We can't really move it. So we're going to scroll down to find the browse button here, the image input browse. That's going to be where we load our image. And we're going to pick an image I got offline. So I'll just pick this image right here. This is just a picture of a stone slab that I got online. You'll see the builder slice it up and place it in individual tiles for me. If I get an image of pre-cut tile, like an actual picture of tile, it'll slice up the entire image, grout included, and not look very great. So for the best results, we need to get a slab of the material that we want. So we want a large piece of concrete, a large piece of marble, a piece of porcelain, whatever you want to make this image, but do not use pre-cut tile because that already has grout in it, and we want controls to make our own grout. So I've got my tile, and you see right away it's seamed. The image is seamed because it's just a regular picture off of Google. And so one of the tools that we've added is a little drop down here that says, hey, do you want to keep the image as is, or do you want me to try and de-seamify it for you, to take the seam out? And so if we take that seam out, it looks like this. If we want to keep the original, we go back here, and you can see the seams reappear. So if you have a seamless image to begin with, you wouldn't need it. But if you have ugly seams breaking up your tile, then you probably want to try this option out. It doesn't work every time, but but for here it looks pretty good. Another thing we can take a look at is the resolution. Because these images are being generated on the fly dynamically, we have resolution control. It's not going to come up very often. A little disclaimer, I recommend not going super crazy 4K, 8K on your textures. It'll slow your plan down. It'll weigh down your hard drive. It'll fill up your plans. It'll just be kind of a hassle, but sometimes you might need it. And so for tile especially, this is the one use case I recommend. If you need really thin grout, you're going to need more pixels to achieve that grout. So no matter how far I take down this grout slider on this example, you'll see that it's not very thin. There's not enough pixels in the image to make a really, really thin grout line. I can add more pixels by dropping my resolution drop down to 1K, 2K, and that will give me more pixels for the image generation to then give me thinner grout. You can see the grout gets smaller as I increase the resolution. Again, don't go crazy, but if you really need super thin grout, the option to change our resolution gives us a chance to reduce our grout thickness. So we know how to make our images, we know how to tinker around with the image input, we know what the resolution's doing, and we know when to use it. Let's go to the number one most asked question: how do I find my correct scale? Throughout these examples, I've just been putting 80 inches up there just as a placeholder, so it looks large enough in Chief to be, somewhat realistic. But when I'm ready to actually find out my true scale, it's a real simple method. We're just going to count. And so for this tile example I have here, I'm in the Adjust Material dialog. I'm going to adjust my scale, and I have this preview of the image right here. This is the 2x1 tile that we use for our subway example. And so I can count vertical or horizontal, but I'm going to go horizontal for this example, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So the tile count I have left to right is 12. If I want those tiles to be 10 inches, it'd be 10 inches per tile, 12 tiles, 120 inches will be my scale. Okay, for the Y scale, because I know this image is square, I don't have to count. But if I wanted to, I could. It's 24 times 5. That also comes out to 120. If I have a non-square image, I'd have to count both. But the builders always make square things, so you just have to count one. Okay? I have one more example over here. This is a picket tile type. And we're going to count top to bottom because it's faster. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I wanted these pickets to be 20 inches tall, the count would be 6 times 20, 120. I set my scale, and I'm good to go. Okay. Let's move on to the second feature I'm talking about today, the Interactive Material Editor. And this is just a small tool that I love that's going to let you adjust the offset, rotation, and scale in real time. So we're going to place a material in a scene. And before, if I wanted to edit the placement or the rotation or the scale of these materials in any sort of way, I had to open it up. Maybe I want to measure the offset before I open it up and then offset it by that amount and see what I get. And then I made a mistake and I have to open it up again and change my measurements. And okay, but now with this tool, I go to 3D, I drop down to Adjust Materials, and I pick the Interactive Material Editor, and I click on the material I want to edit, and I have a little gizmo pop up. If I grab that gizmo, I can move, I can rotate, and I can scale. And this is changing the exact same data that I would have if I open up the material proper. It's doing the same thing, just in real time, which lets us visually put tile in the corners, like so. I can rotate it. I can quickly go through a scene and adjust how I want on the fly. Go back to my little list here. Scoping tools are enabled, so if I want to make different materials, I can. I'm going to activate component mode. And just like with previous scoping tools, I can make a new plan material. I'm going to rename it something good because I'm a professional. And now I can move this one independent of the other one. I have two plan materials that are separate, and I'm changing the offset of one, not the other. Some other tools, while I'm moving this or rotating this or scaling this, if I hit Tab while I'm holding it down, this little prompt shows up. This will let me manually enter what I want. So if I want to rotate this 45 degrees, I can grab the rotate handle, hit Tab, and then I can manually push in 45. So that saves me having to open it up, type in 45, close it, take a look at it. So that way I don't have to guess if it's 45. I'll never guess it right on. So that way I can enter it manually if I so choose. And the last little tidbit here is that this gizmo shows up where I click. And so if I want to place this tile in this corner up here, I can click exactly on the corner I want to manipulate, and then I can drag it up to where I want to place it. If I want to adjust it or move it, I can click somewhere else, and it moves the gizmo to where that location is as well. So wherever I click on this material, that's where the gizmo will place and manipulate from. Let's knock out a couple examples, and then we'll get to the Q&A, okay? The classic wall niche. Niche. We're going to use this tool. Before, we'd have to make a bunch of copies of the plan material, and we'd have to measure them in an elevation view to see where we wanted to put them, and then we'd have to move them individually with the Adjust Materials dialog. I mean, we've done it before. It's not ideal. But now we can, with our scoping tools, rename it, place it how we want it. We click on the surrounding materials, also scoped, rename it how we want it, place it, done. Really fast, really easy. Let's go back to the list. Best practices. So every time you scope and you make a new material, that's going to show up in your plan materials. And if you do not name it something appropriate, niche back, niche border, exposed beam 1, exposed beam 2, however you want to do it, you need to name it something applicable so that way you know what you're adjusting if you adjust it from the plan materials dialog. Also, you need to know that you're adding materials to the plan materials dialog. You're going to have a whole bunch of copies of the same wood, the same tile, the more you play with it. And it can get really easy for things to get out of hand if you don't pay attention. You start moving stuff around willy-nilly. So if you can use a pre-existing copy of a material, I'd say use that, but just be super aware that you're going to bloat your plan up with a bunch of copies if you're not careful. And even if you are careful, make sure that you name those materials something appropriate, so when you come back in a year or two, you don't have to wade through materials named copy 2, wood copy 3. Okay, thanks for watching. Let's knock out some Q&A. I'm happy to help you guys with whatever you need. If you have to go, you can email me at dustin@chiefarchitect.com. I'm happy to help with any questions you might have. If you have any troubles making a certain kind of material, or if you're confused on how the builders work, my only request is that you show me some cool stuff that you make. And let's do some Q&A.
All right, Dustin, our first question is from Amy Pearson. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Amy, how's it going?
Good. How are you, Dustin?
Fantastic. What's up?
Is there a best practices if you have a wildly moving tile like a Violetta, and I've tried to do this importing just a single tile, but then you're repeating the same tile over and over. So if you're trying to get that to be a little more realistic, how would you approach that? For
things that are very varied or wild or kind of hard to if it's not a repeating, continuing tile, you want a larger surface area. Let's take a look real quick. I've got an example here. Okay, can you see this brick texture on the side here? So where this blue square is, that's the actual texture. And so I've got 8 tiles in this sample. And so if I'm going to take that image and try and make a chief material out of it, you see that these 2 tiles are darker. And so what happens is that same 2 repeat over and over, over and over, over and over. So to get a better result, you want to get more tiles in that example, in that image. And so depending on how varied it is, if it's a wild texture, try and get just more surface area in the image, and that'll give you a better example in chief.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Who's next, Gary?
We have Bonnie. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hey there. Sorry about that.
No problem. Bonnie, was it?
Me okay?
Yeah, I got
Yes,
you.
Bonnie. Yeah. So I have 2 questions on the tile grout. Do you have
Yes.
the ability to do a mud set grout? So like when you're placing tiles on the floor and you don't want to see the grout, you want the tile to be basically right up against
Invisible?
each other. Yeah.
Let me see. I don't think so. That's a good idea. Let me pull the builder over here. Tile builder. I believe I don't have one of those, but I will add it and get it on my list. That's a really good idea to have. You want the option to not have grout and just have like tiles lined up.
Yeah. Yep. So I have a project right now that I'm working on that, we're doing that on both flooring and walls.
Sure.
So that they're basically, almost seamless, if you will.
Gotcha.
Okay, and then my second question is, again, with the project that I'm working on, we try to, use materials that are actually available in the market, whether, Lowe's.com, Home Depot, whatever. So I think I saw you briefly go through a screen capture capability.
I did.
Is that just in X17? And if so, can you repeat that?
Sure. So it's in. We've had it for a long time. It's in the, I believe it's 3D or it's tools. Sorry, tools. The question was, how do we use the screen capture tool to get the accurate screen capture and not use the builders? It's tools. We're going to drop down here to screen capture, and it's going to be screen capture setup screen capture screen right here. And so when you click on that, I'll bring up the setup so you can see what it looks like. There's a checkbox here that says hide Chief Architect while capturing. And so for those of you that are on a single monitor, you're going to find the tile image that you want. You're then going to pull up Chief on top of it, and you're going to make sure that this is checked. And so when you capture, it's going to hide Chief. We're going to see what's behind my my thing here, so we can then capture whatever we want. When we let go of it, it's going to put it in Chief for us over on the side. Okay?
Okay.
And we've had that for instance, at least X10 prior. Anything else to help you with?
No, fantastic. Thank you. That's much easier than the way I was doing it. Appreciate it.
Sure, no problem. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, who's next?
Our next question is from Leslie. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
So one of the ongoing challenges has always been getting the actual pattern on the elevation to match the pattern on the 3D. And of course, you guys have made strides with that by allowing me to pick different fills and adjust them. But now that I can drag stuff around with the interactive material editor, is everything going to adjust with that so that when I actually do an elevation, things show up how I want them.
So if I understand your question correctly, you're talking about the vector patterns that are associated with materials. You want those to be accurate to the image that's also on the material?
Yes.
Okay.
No problem. I'm doing tile detail drawings. I do a lot of kitchen and bath and fireplaces, and so I'm doing all these details.
Gotcha. Okay, let's open up this example real quick. So I've got this rhombus tile. Okay, and that's a really hard one to make a vector pattern for. We have a lot of options for patterns. We can drop them down to concrete, to grid, and if it's like a subway tile, we try and fake it with that way. For these kinds of things where there's no real way to make the vector pattern match, what we're going to want to do is pattern from texture.
Texture.
So we're loading now this is the texture. but let's say it's not really working that well. It's hard to see. I know it's hard to see because the resolution on the presentation is not super great, but let's bring this up, down. You can't really get the pattern going. There is a bit. There's options here to drop this down to the normal map, the roughness map, the metal map, and so that we know that this this normal map usually fires off a better result in your vector chances. And so we'll clean it up like that. Hit OK. And let's keep it in sync. So when we place it, and we'll go to vector, it's lined up. Does that help you out?
So then when you drag it over because you want to line something up on the corner, and I now go to my elevation view, will that be lined up?
You can, because we clicked this magic button right here, this keep pattern texture in sync. So that's okay. Let's use the new material editor. Adjust materials, interactive. Let's click on it. If we move it, it should snap into place. Boom. Okay. Does that help you out?
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right, Carrie, who's next?
Dustin, we have Mark here with a question. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hey, Mark, what's up?
Hello, Dustin. I'm Mark.
Mark, nice to meet you, buddy.
Good to meet you. I was wondering if you could suggest sites that we can go to get raw materials such as slabs or tiles or wood patterns, and whether they're free sites or pay for use type deals.
You're asking for actual images of slabs of wood, of large format images?
What we would use to start with, yes, to create.
Okay. So if you wanted to find large scale images to make your materials out of, I would recommend, there's a few places. Of course, Google image search, you can search for, concrete slab or something. There are search tools in Google that you can search by resolution or size. It's not super complex, but there's some pro grade stuff. If you really want to get some high end stuff, you can go to something called Quixel Megascans. Yes, I messed that up. Quixel Megascans, I think is what it was. Let me let's see. Quixel. So yeah, they moved companies, but these guys usually have a lot of materials that you can go through and figure out what you want. And also, I showed. Let me bring up the other one. I showed if you want to use SBS ARs to get the same thing. Let me find it. We got a bunch of stuff. There we go. You can Google, say concrete SBS AR in Google. Usually it'll take you here, but Adobe has a community website for these assets, so we can look for concrete.
And Google for AR?
Yeah, you want to Google for, if you want to load a builder or an SBS AR, you can look up whatever you want. So you can say, I want terracotta tile.sbs AR, or I want roof shingles SBS AR, and that will help you find them. But a lot of times I start here at the community assets page. If you've worked with Chief a long time, you've probably noticed that we recommend like dipping into like the SketchUp 3D library, for example, to find if we can't provide the asset, there's places online you can go, and this is one of the places that I recommend. If I don't want to make something myself, I can go and find it here and drop it in just fine. And so if you can't find a large concrete slab, you can go and select one of these, load it into the 3D builder, and then print off your own concrete slab.
And so 3D, the SketchUp, like Trimble, that's 3D warehouse I use to get objects. You can get materials there.
Not the materials at 3D warehouse. You're going to get the materials from the Substance 3D community assets page here. You just download it right over here. And there's some Adobe has another page that's for paid content. So if you wanted to buy some assets, if something here doesn't work out for you, something really bespoke, you might try there too. But almost all of these are free, I believe. And so you can just download them up here in the top right. That comes down as a .sbs AR. We load them in Chief externally with that external drop-down material builder. We're going to go to the external substance, and that will load that concrete SBS AR for you. You can then rip off as many textures as you need.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Does that help?
Dustin, Martha has a question. Go ahead
Martha.
and unmute yourself and ask your question. All right, let's check in with Melissa. Hi, Melissa. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hey, Dustin.
Hey, what's up?
Oh, okay. So I just want to know, how soon is this video going to be available? And also, will we be able to rewatch the questions that are being asked?
I believe it comes out on Friday. We'll send you a link in the email. I believe it will have the Q&A attached to it as well. If it doesn't, you go ahead and email us and we'll get you set up if we can.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks so much. This is amazing, by the way. This is really great. Well done.
I'm glad you like it.
Dustin, we have a question from Scotty Campbell. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi there.
Hi.
We want to know, when is X17 going to be released?
Out of beta.
We're not, I think it's going to be in Q2, but right now we are in public beta. And so you can go and get it right now from the digital locker and try out all these tools we showed off today. It's already there in your digital locker. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next question is from Paul. Hi, Paul. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, Justin. Dustin,
What's up,
how are
man?
you doing?
Good, Paul. What's up?
Hey, I have a question. If I have a picture of just one tile and I import it, am I able to pick like a London bond or subway pattern, or how would I do that?
No, if you have a single picture of a tile, so you have an image of one tile, you won't be able to offset it or manipulate that picture at all because the image is static. The only way that we can adjust offsets and stuff, let me pull up the builder real quick. Material builder. Let's go to the tile. We have offset controls here. We can go to, oops, right here, offsets 1/3. So I'll zoom in a little bit so we can see it. 1/3 offset, 1/2 offset. Because this is not a real image yet, this is just a builder. We can adjust these things how we need them. This custom will bring up a slider if you want to adjust the type of offsets. But if you have a single image, let's actually make one real quick. Let's use our screen capture tool. Tools, screen capture. Oops. We want to have, here's my picture of, we'll use this one again. Okay. Let's go back to Chief. Tools, screen capture, capture screen, and let's just get one single tile here. Okay. At this point in time, we'll go back to Chief. This is our new material. Let's open it up. So this is the material we just made, and you can see it's just going to repeat the same tile over and over and over again. And it's not going to look super great. We can't really change this because it's just a picture. We can't adjust the picture as we want. It has to be something that we do in Builder. So for your question, can you manipulate a single tile to be running bond or a different kind of offset? You cannot with an image, but you can with the Builder. So if you need something to be a specific offset, I would recommend that.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Justin, our next question is from Vicky. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, Dustin.
Hi, Vicki.
My question is, how would you work this with a very decorative tile, like a Turkish tile or something that had a design in it?
For the Builder itself, if you wanted to load the image into the Builder, it can't be a pre-made tile. So if it already has grout on it or it already has a pattern built in, what happens is the Builder will slice up the image. I'll show you why it can't work in this, and I'll show you a way to do it. We can't load it in the tile Builder. Go to tile, drop it down. We'll do image input, image color only, browse, examples, and we'll grab that same one I had right here. Let's make the scale something visible. So this is a single slab, and by that I mean, let's just open it up. It's like a machine that you feed in a big slab of material into. Let's just open it. So there's no actual tile here. There's no grout, there's no cuts. This is as big a cut as we can get. It is seamed, like I mentioned before, that we can deseamify it with that tool. But if you have something really elaborate, something very decorative, something very like large and and easy to see patterns in, you're going to have to use the screen capture tool, or the older method of making Photoshop, if you want something better than the screen capture tool, is we used to make them in Photoshop by hand. And so that's a really good project if you have a friend, or if you know a kid that's in college for graphic arts. Those are really simple projects where you can toss them, you know, $20 and say, hey, I want you to make this specific material for me. I want it to be seamless, and I want it to be 20 tiles by 30 tiles or something, and give them the example and let them work on it. So that's if I can't make it with a screen capture tool and I can't make it with the builder, I have to go to Photoshop and make it myself. And I recommend for people that are in the field, it's either, if you know Photoshop, great, you can do it yourself, but usually there's a graphic arts kid that could really use $20. And so I think it's a really good project for them.
Yeah, I had a client a few years ago, so it's not relevant now, but it could be. They had a bunch of tile that they brought over from the Middle East.
Oh, yeah.
And it would have been, I tried to take a photograph of it.
Yeah.
And make a tile so that I could do their material region of tile.
Yeah, it's tough, right?
It wasn't that great, you know.
Yeah, anytime you take a picture of something, it works, but it's supposed to be, think of it like a representation. It's to make something really photoreal in 3D, the tools with the camera just aren't really there. Like I have an example here, let me pull up. So this is, if you look at here, this is just a picture of dirt. But even with just lighting differences, just this image here, like it doesn't look like that big of a difference, but with like the dark edges, and when you start to seam it, it obviously makes a repeating texture, and that just looks bad. But yeah. I'd say, yeah, Photoshop has some tools to make it easier and make it better, but yeah, it's tough for that kind of stuff. I'd recommend hiring a kid or kind of knuckling down. There's a lot of tutorials online too if you want to try it yourself to say, how do I make a seamless texture? But yeah, the key would be to get the largest surface area image you can, so you have the most pixels, the most examples, the most tiles to work with. Okay. If you have any, go ahead and email me if you have any. If you want to try this out, I'd like to see your tile, and maybe we can find a better solution offline.
I might do that. It's kind of, you know, it's way past it now. The project was years ago, but sure, it would be interesting to know how to do that if the topic ever comes up again.
Yeah, those bespoke tiles are kind of tough to deal with, but they are very pretty when you get them right. So I'd like to see it. All right. Thank you.
All right, Justin, our next question comes from Amy. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can. What's up, Amy?
Awesome. So my question is, when working in the style palette, is it going to retain the same scale and placement, or do we have to edit that almost every single time?
I'm not sure about that one. You stumped me. I would say that would be a tech support question, but that's probably a good ask. I'd like to find out the answer for that one myself. So you can either chat that one in if it hasn't been answered yet, maybe get it during the video. If not, just email us and we'll get you the answer right away. Okay?
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Justin, do you have time for 2 more questions?
I do have time for 2 more questions. Real quick though, before we move on, let me just mention that we are doing some more events coming up. We have our chief training in the summertime. It is one of my favorite events. If you guys are thinking about doing training, this is the best one. We have the most fun here. We go down the list to on-demand training. This is what we're doing right now, is the material builder. We have the kitchen and bath boot camp. And then we have another webinar coming up for lighting and visualizing small spaces, and then 3D text and dimensions right after that. And so if you have to go, we're going to record this, we'll send you the link. But yeah, if you guys come back next week or the week after, we'll have some more webinars for you. So I got time for a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap it up.
All right, let's check in with Jim. Hi, Jim. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hey, Dustin. Thanks for your time. This is
up,
really great. I remember when we started working with that, with the texture thing. This is great. The question I have for you is this: do you know how sometimes when you're trying to generate, like if you take a picture of something, but you're trying to stand over it, but you know it's going to keystone on you because you're never going to be perfectly. Yeah. So you happen to, because I have in the past like subscribed to like Corel Photo Paint, and it's like hundreds of dollars a year for the 10, 15, 20 minutes that I use it per year. So do you happen to know of any resources for unkeep, like, it's basically taking and skewing things so that they're squared off that doesn't cost a fortune?
Well, not the stuff that I use to be Photoshop or Corel Painter. I would say, like I said before, if you're trying to take like a large photo of a concrete slab or a wall or siding, I would say at this point it'd be easier and faster to use Substance to fake it. But if you have to have that exact material, and you have to have that keystone removed, I'd try AI. I'd see if there's any options out there for image manipulations where you could say remove the keystone in one of the large AI models. I know NVIDIA is working on some stuff. I don't think it's ready for prime time yet, but there are some AI models out there that might work out for you. I haven't tried them yet because I use Photoshop, but if you don't want to pay for Photoshop, I totally get it. I would recommend trying ChatGPT.
One quick follow-up question. I was listening, but I was also ADHD, so that's just cross my bear. But
Sure.
I'm always get the download and listen to the webinar 2 or 3 more times after this. The question, so for shininess and all that stuff, you're going to manipulate that in the actual material editor once you've got it imported into your library, right?
If you do that, so here's an example. Let's pull up so we're going to go to the Adjust Materials dialog, and we're going to look at this tile that I have applied right here. Let's make this into a sphere so we can see a little bit better. Okay, let's zoom in. So one thing that we don't want is shiny grout, right? We don't want the grout to be, but we want like high gloss tile. And so make this a little bit bigger. So if we manipulate the roughness in the material dialog, right now we have a roughness map. Okay.
Yep.
And I think I can do this. Let's do. This is the actual map that it's referencing. And so the way the map works is that wherever the pixel is white, it's going to be rough, matte. If it's going to be black, it's going to be shiny and glossy. And so if I take that map off, then everything's going to be glossy. And I have my roughness slider here. I can make the whole thing rough, but I lose the grout control. So what I recommend in that case, if I want to make roughness changes, I would go back to my material builder, go to my tile builder. And right now we have one tile that's active. Tile 1, there's a roughness slider right here. This is how I manipulate that. Just controls the tile that it's applied to. So let's make the scale a little bit bigger. And let's do a 2-color checker so we get a really good example. So if I want, let's do black and white. So you can see that the black is high gloss, right?
Yeah.
But the white is high roughness. It's gonna be matte. If I reversed it, it's down here, the roughness for the black version. So that way my grout stays untouched. Okay, so I do all my roughness adjustments in this tool, so that way we don't get confused with our grout.
So the roughness, if the roughness is turned all the way down, you're going to get about as shiny as possible.
Yep. And you might see, if you use other softwares, it kind of gets flipped. You might see glossy or roughness, but we use roughness. And so you're asking the material, how rough are you? If you say I'm 100% rough, then that means it's fully matte. If I'm 0% roughness, then it's full gloss. Okay.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay. One more question?
Well, we have had some more hands go up since then. If you want to continue.
Sure. Let's rack them out. Let's do it.
All right. We have Jen here. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah. Hey, sorry. This is, I feel like, the most stupid question, but I've just got Premiere, your beta 17 on my screen to try and like test drive some of this while you're working. And I just can't even find this beautiful material builder module in the drop downs. Like it's not showing up under 3D.
3D material builder's not there?
No. It goes from materials, material painter to adjust materials, and that's it. Then it goes to lighting, camera view, to options, rendering techniques, etc. Material builder is not in there.
Off the top of my head, I'm guessing that you might have gotten a older version of Chief by accident, but without seeing your screen, I can't really figure it out. I would recommend calling in tech support or just emailing it, and they'll help you out right away. But first, I just double check that you're in Chief Architect X17.
Yeah, I am.
Beta. Yeah. In that case, then I call tech support.
Hey, Dustin.
Yeah.
So are you using a Mac by chance?
Oh, that's right. That was it. Good catch.
We're this feature didn't get into to Mac. So I know our development, there was a roadblock in terms of that getting done for the Mac OS. So still working on a solution for that.
Okay, so then I'm not an idiot. Thank you.
It's a dumb question.
What am I missing here? This is
no, you're good. You're good. I just forgot it myself. I completely ghosted it. It's not on the Mac yet. I know the guys are working on it, and I believe it should be Q2, hopefully. But yeah, it's coming. We're not going to forget you on this one.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'll catch up when it comes out for Mac. But thanks.
Real quick, if you have to use it, you can still go to the Chief Talk thread and download the external player, and then load them that way if you want to play with it and try it out. If you have to have a certain tile and you can't wait for the update, you can always use the external substance player.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's all right. I can sit tight, but this is great. We're excited about it.
Great. Glad you like it.
Bye.
All right, Dustin, let's check in with Bethany. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi there. Somebody actually already asked my question right before me, so it got answered. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks, Beth.
Okay, let's see what Jessica has to say. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, Dustin. Can you hear me?
I can. What's up?
Awesome. So I'm often doing custom tile layouts. So in your model that you have up, I can see they're all horizontal. Sometimes we're mixing in like a row or two of vertical. And maybe this already got answered. How are you guys, or can you just demonstrate maybe somewhat quickly of how to mix orientation within a specific pattern?
Sure. Since the builder itself, let's go up here to the 3D, the builder. Your question was you wanted to start adding more elements to it, correct? You want to start adding rows and different orientations?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Would it just be saving as and then importing a new or creating a new tile material and then just kind of stacking them within?
Yeah, for that case, you do have options. There's no orientation in this, but once you actually get into Chief, you can then adjust the orientation on the material itself with this. So you can say 45, 90, and that will then rotate at 90 degrees.
Just copy and like, because some of them will be like stacked instead of offset, and then maybe they're offset on the horizontal. So I'm often doing like more custom tile layouts. So I think right now I'm pretty much importing multiple tiles and then just individually moving them and orienting them. So I wasn't sure if there was a more efficient way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I'd recommend to do it right now. We are looking into this kind of stuff later on down the road, but right now this is more of a whole material type solution.
Yeah.
So there's not really that custom layout. Okay.
Great. Thanks.
Justin, our next question is from Leslie. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, Dustin, again. So I do a lot with the bespoke tile, and I do a lot of work using manufacturer's materials because I'm rendering, because they're very unusual, I'm rendering what there is. So I have two questions, because one has to do with some of the things in the library. So like if I take Decton or something like that, it doesn't always scale properly when you spray it onto something. Can I use the material adjuster thing here for the material builder to change something in the manufacturer library that you have?
You cannot. And so this is think of it as like a river that goes downstream. So by the time the image is already in the library, you cannot adjust it with the material builder. This is the source. So we're going to use the material builder to make tile, but it can't adjust tile once it's in the library. For your bespoke tile, same thing. If you have a manufacturer picture or image or material, it's already kind of in there. The best you could do is adjust the scale, the rotation, blend the colors and stuff. But if you wanted to actually have different tile or different variations of it, you'd have to actually edit the image itself or get one from the manufacturer or us. If you email for that kind of stuff, I'd say email us or email me and say, hey, I'm trying to make this tile. What's the best solution? Because there's lots of varied ways to make stuff, and I might be able to help you. I might just say like it's up to the manufacturer, but I'll help you out. Just email me when you get something tough like that.
Okay. Yeah, because I build a lot of things in Publisher, which sounds crazy, but it's what I have, and I take a picture of a tile.
As long as it works.
I do. It takes time. My other question is, when you are producing something in Photoshop, what kind of file are you then putting into Chief?
That's a good question. So what format do we go from Photoshop to Chief with?
Yeah.
So with, what's a good example? Let's just look at this. We've got the adjust material dialog right here. Look at this wood. This wood is a JPEG, and that's our texture source. So most of our textures, almost all of them are JPEGs, and that's fine. But when you start to get into the more pro grade stuff, you're going to want PNGs. And so the reason for that is, do you know what compression is by chance? This is kind of in the weeds, but we'll wrap up with this last question. So JPEGs compress, they're tiny, but they compress. And so that compression can make your materials look weird if the maps are JPEG and they get compressed. It actually changes the pixel. And so for any sort of normal map, metal map, you know, roughness map, all these maps that aren't the base color texture, like the texture source can be a JPEG, everything else I recommend PNGs. You'll get, it doesn't compress, you don't lose any data, it doesn't change the image at all, so that way you get a highly accurate image. Okay?
Okay, good to know.
Pro tip, PNG is the way to go. You can get by with it with JPEG for the texture, and that's about it. Okay? All right, thank you. All right, I think that's about it. Are we calling it there?
Yeah, that's it for today. Thanks.
Right on. All right, guys. Again, Dustin Cruz. I'm on the content team. If you have any questions, give us a call. If you want to tune in next week, we have lighting and visualization, small spaces, and also 3D text and dimensions coming up. I'd love to see the cool stuff you guys make, so don't be shy. All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate you.